should be live in just a second here. And there we go. Yep, we are live. Okay. Everything is working perfectly fine. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, that's just the joys of YouTube right there. Just doing everything live. But you probably know that too.
Yes, I do. Yep.
But yeah, thank you for being on the show again. I really do appreciate it. And yeah. But how's your day been? Have you been what have you been playing recently?
I've been playing a lot of Pout World. Woke up early this morning, so a little bit exhausted for the day, but I still got plenty to do today, plenty more games to play, and lots of stuff to work on.
Oh yeah. Well,
yep.
Want to let anything out about what you're working on recently?
So one of the things I'm working on is a new show intro for 4GQ TV. We have gone a lot closer to the what would you call it, like mainstream pop culture, and we've been getting a lot of requests from PR agents to get their singers on the show, their actors on the show, and producers. So I'm trying to make it more accommodating to a Hollywood style show to entice people to come and listen to these actors and producers. And the PR rep for NSYNC, LFO, and Baby Mac reached out to us recently. They want to get their people on. PR rep for two former guys from G4 TV. They want to come on to talk about their new AI show. Top Dollar, aka Francis, WWE wrestler, said he would come on. And I want to make it so that they're excited to come on and it doesn't look like every other show. It looks unique. Like your show is definitely unique. I'm looking at this and this is really cool because nobody else does this like this, So anytime that you do something different from what the standard podcasts are, you are leveling yourself up in a sense. You're changing the game a little bit. You're making a difference. And that's a form of art and I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, interesting to know. Can't wait to see how your stuff turns out.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah. So what I like to do for this show is I always like to ask the guests like personal gaming stuff. So I'm just gonna start with gaming related questions and then go into your content history a little bit later on in the show. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the first question I always like to ask people is what was the first gaming console they started on? So I know you probably have a rich history in gaming, right? So
yeah, I grew up in gaming. So the first see, this is tough because what do you consider a console, right? Like, I mean, wow. So 3 years old, the first game I ever played, my dad put me on a chair at his pizza place and I played Pac-Man. Dropped a quarter in it. First game I ever played. First console at home would be it was a mix between Atari and ColecoVision. I was so young, I probably couldn't tell you which one I touched first, but they were both there. I liked the Smurfs on ColecoVision, and I liked Masters of the Universe on Atari.
Really? Masters of the Universe, huh?
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that He-Man? Or
Yep.
Okay. So that was on, you said the Atari?
On the Atari, yep.
Interesting. I didn't know they've actually had games back then for at least that series.
They did, and to be honest with you, like for the time that it was, if you were a He-Man fan, you were so excited to play that game. The terrible music that was in there that tried to mimic the cartoon, and you could jump. And I remember always getting killed by this flying vehicle. I can't remember what it was called. I just kept dying.
All right. So what was your favorite games for those consoles back in the day when you first played on them?
For Atari, River Raid. For ColecoVision, Smurfs. And then when Nintendo came along, it's a really hard tie, but it's Mega Man first, and then Super Mario Brothers.
Ooh, pretty good choices right there for Nintendo.
Yep.
I'm actually a little bit of a Mega Man kid, not gonna lie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I wasn't into, I didn't get into the platforming ones. I got into like some of the side spin-off games that they had for the Game Boy Advance. So that's how I kind of got into Mega Man. But I have tried out a little bit of those those 2D platforming games. They're pretty fun, even to this day.
Yeah. Classics. And they were tough back then too. I mean, you know, there was, in those days, it was like you got 3 lives and then you had to remember those passwords that came up on the screen, or eventually you got a Game Genie and you cheated your way through. But games were definitely a lot different back then.
Huh. So when you've, I guess, what was the first game that you started out with that you first got for your first console? If you can even remember that, because I know a lot of people can't really go back that far.
See, the first game I probably ever chose was a toss up between 2. I remember being in Sears, and they were selling a lot of Atari games really cheap that worked on the 2600 and their version of the Atari. The Sears had their own version. And I remember convincing my mom that I wanted to get the double cartridge for Chuck Norris. It was a 2-ended cartridge. Chuck Norris on one side and some cheesy game on the other. And then River Raid.
Honestly, haven't heard of any of those games. So, explain, like, what type of games were they?
Chuck Norris, I don't even remember what type of game it was. It was like Roundhouse Kick or something, and it had like a gray label on it or silver label, and it was probably a really bad clone. I don't even know if it was officially licensed, but it said Chuck Norris on it. And then River Raid was like this game where you were like a plane and you flew over the river. And you had to keep fueling up and avoiding enemies and shooting down enemies. It was really basic, but a lot of fun because, I mean, you had to keep yourself going.
Oh, I guess a lot. I mean, I guess there was some games that were pretty basic like that back in the day, right? I mean, not as complex as you have them once you went to the Nintendo console, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Nintendo came along. It was like a big change. It got more complex.
Yeah, that's the sense I get it with a lot of people who talk about like their gaming past, like who grew up with the consoles before Nintendo came along. So, yeah, they definitely helped push the game a little past than what it was before. So,
yep.
So moving on from your first console, what was your favorite console that you picked up, like out of like your entire, like, as long as you've been around in gaming?
Favorite console would be the Super Nintendo.
Really? Why the Super Nintendo?
I remember before the Super Nintendo launched, our Burger King had a console like standalone edition of Super Nintendo. It was actually the real unit, but the way they had set it up is you put a quarter in, you could play one of 2 games. You could play F-Zero or Super Mario World. And I just remember I was at Burger King and I was like, wow, Super Mario World, look at this. Like the music, the sprites, the colors. It was sharp. Like it was a really sharp game. And I still don't know how they crammed so much into that game that just made that start screen so magical to me at the time. And I sat at Burger King probably like 5-6 hours just playing that game. Nonstop. Like I just really loved it.
Yeah, Mario has that effect on people. Like it's like not only is it colorful and vibrant, but it's just like fun, easy to play, and like you could just pick it up really fast. But not only that, it's also just really challenging, just in general too. Well, at least the older Mario was. uh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any favorite games that you picked up like during that time for that console? Like ones that like your top 5?
Super Mario World, Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there was so many at the time that I just fell in love with, and probably so many crossed on my mind that this is where you kind of get confused and you don't remember everything. But Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2, I like those, and the Roadrunner game. I was in love with the Roadrunner game.
Interesting. So, what was the Roadrunner game about?
It was just a platformer, and you were the Roadrunner.
Wait, the Roadrunner for Looney Tunes?
Yep.
Ah, okay, interesting. I think I heard a little bit about that game because I watch a lot of retro stuff here and there. So, yeah, interesting. Was that game good back in the day, or?
I mean, graphically, it looked great. It was challenging. I remember getting frustrated, but I just loved the aesthetics, the look of it. I mean, I was a huge Roadrunner fan, so it couldn't do me any wrong. I was if you know how console wars are today,
yeah,
I defended the Roadrunner back in school that way.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you kind of do that if you fall in love with something that you really enjoy. I mean, that's how I was with Star Wars before I got into gaming. So yeah.
Oh, so you weren't a Trekkie then?
Nope.
I just had to throw that in there.
Honestly, I did not watch anything Star Trek back in the day when I was younger.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. Star Wars is the more popular franchise for a reason, and that's because it appeals to more people.
It does. It definitely does.
So, I take it you were a big Looney Tunes fan back in the day, right?
I was. Yeah, I loved those cartoons.
Did you prefer them over the Disney cartoons?
Yes, I did.
Ah, okay, I see you. Yeah, same here. I actually grew up with the reruns that they would do back in the day, back on Cartoon Network.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So
that was when Cartoon Network showed really good cartoons.
Yep. Yeah. So I actually still remember watching the old Coyote versus Roadrunner reruns too. So that's how I knew about the Roadrunner.
They were classics.
I know. Funny enough, I actually did get a Looney Tunes video game, but it wasn't that good. It was for the Wii, and it was like a little arena shooter game. But yeah. So I guess I'm moving on from that. So what are your top 5 favorite games of all time? If you
that's the top. Man, I've been through so many different iterations of games and generations. So, top 5 of all time. I would say Mega Man, Super Mario World, Pac-Man, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, and toss-up, because I used to spend a lot of time in the arcades. I would say the next most memorable arcade that I put a lot of quarters in would be The Simpsons.
Okay, so you have two arcade games then, the Ninja Turtles and The Simpsons, huh?
Yep, I love those. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I think I can relate with you. Because I have some local restaurants that actually had those games for kids to play. Like they had like a little side area for arcade machines. I would always play The Simpsons or the Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah, they were just awesome to go to. I can't describe it. It's like, for me, arcades have always been this magical feeling that I can never repeat on any console.
Really? So you still haven't caught that feeling like you did back then?
Nope. Yeah, like the arcades was, man, like at the height of the arcade days, right? For me would be the late 80s to early 90s. Just walking to Spaceport, and you hear the clanging of the quarters, you see the glow in the dark carpets, the lights were like dim, and you see all these people like huddled around, people watching Street Fighter tournaments or fighting Vipers or Tekken. Like everybody's lined up to play each other, and they put quarters up on the screen to say who was next. And they used to take that seriously. Like if they had their quarter up on the screen and then you try to go a second time to beat your opponent again that was next to you, they'd be like, no, my quarter was up there. You got to get in the back of the line. That was my quarter. Like, you know, it was intense. It was very intense, but it's a time that I don't think will ever be repeated again.
Nah, definitely not. In fact, the only reason arcades were a thing is because like that was the only way you could really enjoy playing video games out there. I mean, the consoles weren't the best experience at the time, right?
No, yeah, they weren't, because arcades had the way that they had the joysticks and the buttons were, it just felt different than playing on this small little Nintendo controller with two buttons and a cross for a directional pad. You know, it just felt a lot different.
It's like, you actually got me curious now. So, since you enjoyed arcade machines so much, do you buy like those 1-up machines at all? Like those arcade 1-up machines?
I have two 1-up machines. I have one that I haven't opened, which is Final Fight. And then I have a Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition that I modded. So I have like many arcade games in that one. And then as a kid, we actually did have arcade machines and pinball machines. We had Space Invaders. And in my dad's restaurants, we had like Golden Axe, Simpsons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spy Hunter. Oh, that's another one. I love Spy Hunter. And we had pinball machines too. So I grew up around, and I was very fortunate to have so much opportunity to play these different works of art.
Yeah, I can't really say the same because by the time I kind of was able to go out and play, like go to places, arcades were already closed around here. I mean, there is Dave & Buster's, but that's pretty far away from me, so I'd have to go out of my way to drive over there. But yeah, there used to be there. I mean, the only way now to enjoy like an arcade experience is to go to the restaurants that still have them around. But even now they kind of switched them out for like newer games, so you don't really get to keep like those older ones anymore. But there is a pizza restaurant that still has the Simpsons game, surprisingly.
Yeah, they seem to be popular. Like at least mom and pop pizza places and old Pizza Huts, you'd see stuff like that.
Yeah, surprisingly. I actually heard that pinball machines were actually kind of going up in price though, in terms of how like people getting them nowadays.
It doesn't surprise me because a lot of pinball collectors, they want something almost in pristine condition, so they'll pay top quality for people that can refurbish or mechanically fix things that were broken. I mean, I think the skill of a pinball mechanic is declining because not a lot of people choose that as a profession these days. It's mostly hobbyists that know what they're doing.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. So
yeah.
But it sounds like you were mostly an arcade kid than a console person then growing up, right?
I would choose the arcade any day over playing a console.
Okay.
Because it was like a social experience in real life. And plus, I mean, like growing up in those days, like, you know, the skater girls hung out at the arcades. So it was a good experience to meet people, you could say.
I gotta ask, did you ever take part in like those little arcade tournaments that people would have like around like the fighting games or anything like that?
I did. I took place in a Fighting Vipers tournament. I didn't make it to any type of national or state level with Spaceport, but just in the local Spaceport, I came in number 2.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess you could say it was good.
I mean, I mean, out of how many people was it that were in that competition?
Oh, my spaceport is really popular, so I want to say because they did a tour because it was like everybody had to be there that day when you played it, and they had to have a employee to watch to make sure nobody was lying about who beat who. So it probably went on for about 5 hours, and there were probably about maybe 30 to 40 people that lined up.
Oh yeah, being in top 2 is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, the guy who beat me that came in the first, place one, he immediately got wiped when he went to go play against the other people at the other spaceport. But he was kind of like a trickster, and he did distract me and say, "Look over there," and I did look. I did look.
Oh, no.
But I mean, you know what though? I shouldn't have felt for it, and I lost, and I didn't get mad. I just took it, and I was like, okay, I lost. It was just more of a thing. Like if you came number 1, it was you got your name up there at the local arcade. I don't know if whatever their state was or whatever prizes there were, but it was just number 1. Have your name up at the arcade.
Yeah, that's still pretty impressive to end up like on that high of a board, even if you didn't get number 1. But yeah, I mean,
yep.
Yeah. Did you ever try like entering any more competitions like that, or nah? Was that just it?
I did. Blockbuster had they were doing a competition on Super Nintendo machines and Sega Genesis, and you can choose which platform you want to play on. And I figured at the time in my area, Super Nintendo was more popular, so I chose to play on Genesis because I figured less people would know how to work the controller that well. Like I just figured some people that might sign up might not even have a Genesis at home. So I signed up for the Genesis, and I came all the way to the top of my local Blockbuster, and it was me and this other guy. And it was RoboCop on the Genesis, and it was all about how much money you can get in a certain amount of time. And I remember I thought I was going to lose. But literally at the last 10 seconds, I found like this big money bag that brought my points up, and I beat him. And it really was pure luck because I had no clue what I was doing in RoboCop. I don't even think I was that good at it. But I came number 1 from my local Blockbuster. So I was the local Blockbuster champion, and I got a card for free game rentals and free movie rentals for all year. I could take out 1 movie, 1 game at a time. It was free all year. I didn't make it past the local Blockbuster because there was other people in the area for the district that had higher scores on RoboCop than me. But I was very happy with my prize of 1 free movie, 1 free game for the year.
Yeah. I mean, I would be. Heck.
Yeah.
Who doesn't enjoy free stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. Felt good. Because then I could tell my mom, "Oh, you don't gotta worry about me. You don't gotta worry about paying for it. I'll just use this."
Yeah, definitely. If your parents were probably like, "Okay, phew, don't have to spend on you today."
Yeah. Yep.
So sounds like you got quite the experiences from playing those old school arcade machines. Then
I did. Yeah. Like I said, I think I was very fortunate. My dad, for me growing up, I was kind of spoiled with video games and stuff. And to be honest with you, there was never a day that if a Nintendo game came out, that I would not be able to get it. My dad made sure I got every single release for Nintendo. I couldn't tell you how big my bookshelf was at home, but he even had people at Toys R Us call him when games came in that were in less print, for example, Urban Champion, I think was one. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you come get this. We're holding it for you." So, I mean, I was very fortunate. And then my mom decided to throw away all my boxes. Had the boxes, instruction booklets, the styrofoam in them. My mom's like, "Oh, you don't need this. Is garbage. You're never worth anything. Just throw it away. It's taking up space." Because I had this whole separate. I don't know what. It wasn't like a TV stand. It was like a mix between a bookcase and something else, and my mom used it for a TV stand in her room, but she just threw out all the Nintendo stuff, all the cases, and I was really disappointed because they were in mint condition. I was very picky about keeping everything in mint condition. And I would even get the alcohol cleaners from my Nintendo games and clean them every single time I played the game. Like, it was clean. Like, I had to clean it. So everything I owned was in almost mint condition. And then my mom ruined my day by throwing out all my boxes.
Ah, that sucks. Damn. Yeah. Sometimes parents don't really understand the value of these things.
No, she definitely did not.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have that with my mother. She doesn't understand why I collect retro games. Well, at least games for the PS3. Like, she's always telling me like they're just a waste of money. Well, I'm just like, not to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see, that's the thing. Like, every generation, there's always something that's collectible and valuable, right? And then the parents are like, oh, it's not going to be worth anything. Just, it's trash, it's garbage. You know, the golden, like, for example, the golden age of comics, when kids were collecting it back then, the parents said, oh, this is just like newspaper crap, throw it away. Or your baseball cards, like Mickey Mantles, right? Throw them away, they're garbage. Babe Ruth, throw it away, it's garbage. Why are you collecting all that stuff? And that happened during my like dad's generation. And like, look how much those things are worth today. Some of that stuff. It's insane to think about it. How much value was in those Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle cards that all those parents threw out. You know, it's just nuts. It's crazy.
Heck, you look at Pokemon cards nowadays. A lot of people used to were big into Pokemon even when it came out, and then now the cards are fucking worth like how much now? Like thousands of dollars probably.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's some definitely gems in there that people really go after, right? And who would ever thought we'd be in a generation where VCR, like Silicon Valley, is starting to collect VCRs and VHS tapes? That's crazy to me. Because at the time after Blockbuster was kind of like shutting down and all those other places like Choices and Hollywood Video, you could buy those things super cheap, like or for $10, or it depends. If it's crappy movies, probably like 10 cents each, just so they could get rid of them as they were closing down. But it's nuts to me. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Also, so on that topic of VHS, is actually just recently learned that that VHSs still look pretty good even to this day on the right TV. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I honestly thought, because I was kind of like into that mindset of like, I just want to upgrade. I think it'll look better. But nah, seeing a few people like explore like old technology, like making it look good, like having it look good today is still pretty impressive.
Yeah, you got to use like what are they, the 480p older TVs, sometimes CRTs or whatever. Yep. But yeah, I mean, they definitely look excellent on those because that's what the format was for. And really, when you were looking at those, it wasn't like, because your TV didn't display anything other than 40p, so you didn't look like, oh, it's downgraded. You couldn't see if it was downgraded or not because it put what your TV was at the time. So, man, so many good memories of VHS 2 for me.
Yeah,
those were the days, man. Callie, those were the days.
Yeah. I actually kind of grew up like in between, like right when they were phasing out VHS tapes, like right with CDs, because I actually had a combination of a CD player and a VHS player.
Okay.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have both formats, but that thing broke on me, so my parents never bought a new one after that. Sad too, considering how valuable some VHS tapes can go for, probably.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, especially for Disney collectors, right? If you have certain editions that had to be reprinted, because there was some controversy on the covers at the time.
Yep.
If you have those, I think some collectors are paying a lot of money for them.
You want to know something interesting? I actually had the VHS tapes of the original Star Wars movies when they released. So they actually had the original edits of the old person they had for the Emperor for the episode 2 movie, instead of Ian McDermott that they have recently.
Oh, nice. I had my dad, he used to buy all these VHS tapes at a place called Macro at the time. and I don't know if that's where he got the Star Wars VHS tape, but the Star Wars VHS tape that we had it was almost like it was a double box, but it was only one tape in there. The second box that was attached to it had like a styrofoam thing in there, like an insert, and then you had the VHS tape. And I think the copyright date on that was like what 1978 or 79 or something, and then it was released on VHS. But we had that first print. It's in the garage somewhere.
So that's interesting that you still have it. That must be pretty valuable nowadays, right?
As long as it's in good condition. I don't don't know what the condition is of the garage.
Oh yeah. Didn't really think about that too much. So
I mean, like, who knows? Back in the day, you know, parents used to use mothballs all the time. Maybe a mothball would fly that thing in a garage sale. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But going back to something you brought up earlier about comic books. So I know you're a big comic book person, actually. So I gotta ask, did you pick up any like comic book related video games back in the day?
Yep, I picked up all the X-Men ones on Genesis, and then I picked up the Spider-Man ones on Super Nintendo, and had Spider-Man on Genesis as well.
Really? Okay. How were those Spider-Man games back then? Because that was before everything became 3D, so that was still like the 2D era.
It was. I mean, at the time, if you were a Spider-Man fan and you opened up that Genesis case, like you saw Spider-Man on the cover and you had that smell, that new plastic smell, and you put it in and you saw Spider-Man come on the screen and he shot spider webs, it was a really good time. Looking back at that game, it doesn't hold up very well. But at the time, you were like, wow, this is so cool. I'm Spider-Man. You know? That
was probably the idea back then. Like, you know what? Let's just put a title of Spider-Man, make a quick game out of it, and make a quick buck.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% on point with that.
So what about when it came to the 3D era? Like, did you pick up like anything like that Superman 64 game or anything like that?
So this is where Tim the Sorcerer might be like, oh, why did you do this? So Nintendo 64 came out, and my friend had Super Mario 64, and I didn't really like the 3D models on it at the time, but I wanted to get it for GoldenEye. I had a lot of fun in GoldenEye with my friends. We turned on paintball mode. We had a blast. So I asked my mom, I said, hey, Ma, Nintendo 64 is out. Can you go get it for me? She said, absolutely not. Your dad and I bought you everything else during your childhood. I'm not getting you the N64. It's a waste of money. So I was like, fine. You don't want to get it for me? I'll get it myself. And I took crates and crates of the original Nintendo games I had that were still in mint condition. No boxes though, just the games with their sleeves, you know, the little black Nintendo sleeve. I brought them to Funko Land and I said, how much can I get for all 4 crates of Nintendo games?
How much did you?
And I think I barely got enough to get the Nintendo 64. I had Super Mario 64 and GoldenEye.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it was a really dumb move on my part. It was more telling my mom, hey, if you weren't going to get it for me, I'm going to find a way to get it myself. And then when I finally got it and I brought it home, nobody wanted to come to my house to play GoldenEye. I had to keep going to other people's houses. So I was like, why the hell did I get this?
It's like all that trouble for nothing.
Yeah. And then reality sets in. You're like, oh, I can't get my games back. This really sucks.
Yep, that's kind of how I felt, because I kind of sold a few good games that I'm kind of looking back at like that was a bad idea. But I guess
yeah.
I mean, at that time you probably weren't like thinking like, am I gonna regret this decision? Probably not. But yeah. Actually,
Yeah, I was more in the mode of my mom won't buy it for me, so I'm gonna trade it in, whether she likes it or not.
yeah. So,
Bye bye Bayou Billy. Bye bye Urban Champion. You know, those less printed titles. I saved mine to Zelda card. I have the Zelda, I think, with the not common screw slot. I don't know what it's called, but I got that. I saved the Punisher. I saved TNC Surf Design. And I saved like 2 more, Top Gun and 1 more. I don't remember what the other one is.
the Top Gun game related to Top Gun Maverick, or different?
No, they had a game Top Gun on Nintendo, and what made it very unique was landing on the aircraft carrier. It was very difficult. And then when you finally got it down, you're like, yes, I can fly. I can fly this plane. I'm good.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a flying game, right?
Yeah, it's a flying game.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there like a series made from Sega where you can fly like old like World War II planes? Or
Trying to think. If there was, I probably did not get into that series.
I was gonna ask if you ever got into that, because like I had a demo of it on my PS3 at one point back when the PS3 first came out. So that it was pretty interesting. It was a pretty interesting game. I didn't know what I was doing at the time because I was in middle school, so my brain wasn't able to process everything that was going on or what the game was actually teaching me.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, my mind is exploding with retro nostalgia now. You know.
And that's the point of this show, to go back into that gaming history. You know.
Yeah.
So, what's your current favorite console, like, out of recent times? Doesn't have to be like just the PS5 or like Xbox One or Xbox Series consoles. It could be like 360, PS3 or whatever, like, and or even OG Xbox or PS2. What's been your most recent favorite console?
This is tough. I think my most recent favorite one out of the last few generations. Some are tied. I really enjoyed the 360 for the online aspects, and I really loved the increase in performance from the OG Xbox to 360. Now, I look at like the Wii and I look at the PS3 and the Vita, and I like those because I modded all those. So I love those because those are my modded systems that I play retro stuff on and I have a good time on those. And then I'm not sure if you consider the Steam Deck more like a PC or a console, but I enjoy playing that one every night. I play like small little indie games like Army of Rune, Cult of the Lamb on that, Vampire Survivors. So honestly, I know people look at the Xbox Series X and the PS5 and everybody's like, oh, I prefer this or I like this. Now, I will say I do prefer the Xbox Series X, but neither the Xbox Series X nor the PS5 are in my favorite consoles, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of this current generation, but I do love stuff like the Steam Deck that's been out currently, because that's kind of a really revolutionary stuff, like playing your PC games on the go. And then, of course, right now I'm in the PS3 craze. Right now I'm collecting PS3 games. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, there's one other system that I loved a lot. And I love this thing so much that it went everywhere with me. It was the Game Boy.
Really? The original Game Boy? Or
the original Game Boy.
So, what games did you play for that thing?
I played Tetris. I played Pipe Dream. I played Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins or whatever it was called. I really love that one. I played Donkey Kong. I think Donkey Kong Country. on that, but was it Donkey Kong Country or the Donkey Kong? It was Donkey Kong something, but it looked like crap. And then Gremlins, I like that on there. I think those are my go-to games. I did get the Mega Mans on there, but I liked it because it was Mega Man, but they were not really great games to play on the Game Boy. But I liked it because it was Mega Man, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, they didn't play the same. So console ports were different from the portable ports.
Yeah.
But, I saw in chat with Tim the Sorcerer that you didn't get the PSP. You missed that.
I missed out on that one. I wanted to get it, but I think I was waiting to see if anything was going to happen with the scene on that, and I think a lot of stuff happened late in the generation for the PSP, where it really kind of started blowing up late in the generation.
Yeah, that's probably the homebrew scene that the Sorcerer's talking about. A lot of people modded that thing.
Yes, the PSP had a great scene, and there's people still developing stuff on PSP. I believe they still do updates for some of the custom firmware on it.
Oh yeah, yep. I've seen that, and even the modding scene for that thing is still huge, even to this day. Like being able to play
I think they have battery mods now for it too. I think.
Yep. Actually, funny enough, someone I've been talking to on Twitter has a PS Vita where he showed that you're actually able to download the PSP onto it, so you're able to play it like a PSP.
Oh yeah, I did that to my Vita too. You can play. There's like a PSP mode you can play, and PSP games work really well. And I think that's one of the firmwares I'm talking about. I can't remember what the name of the firmware is. It might be Adrenaline, but they still update that.
I love those portable consoles so much, to be honest. It's a great time recently with like how many new portable consoles there are.
Oh yeah, especially like the aftermarket retro scene.
Yeah,
they have so many good ones coming out. Like the, oh man, was it RGX? I'm not sure. It might be RGX. Something. I gotta look again. My memory's not always great, but yeah, there's one coming out that I'm really looking forward to.
Isn't there also like a Game Boy looking portable console too that's being made?
Yeah, there's tons of Game Boy shell clones out there, and there's some really good ones. Like there was one you could get for like $30 on TikTok, and it was a really popular one that a lot of people in the modern scene go for. I ended up getting it. I just can't remember the name of it. It always slips my mind, the names of these things.
Yeah, but it sounds like from your gaming stuff. It sounds like you really are into the retro stuff though. Just like from the arcades to the older consoles. It's just like you've gone through it all.
Yeah, definitely.
Any moments that you've taken a break from like playing games in general, like just like, you know, I'm just gonna take a step back from gaming, just not play anything.
I never really have a moment where I say I'm gonna take a step back from gaming. I would say like I go through moments where I call it gaming sad, where I just might have like a couple days where I'm bored of this and I don't know what to play, and then I'll just find some crazy indie game that has mechanics that keep me glued to it, like Army of Ruin, and then I'll go to that for a little bit and I'll play that 12 hours, and I'll just go back and forth.
So, I gotta ask, what do you think about mobile gaming recently? Like, in terms of like what it's able to do?
I think it's impressive what mobile gaming can do. I know a lot of older gamers are very hesitant and, I mean, kind of gatekeep and be like, oh, mobile gaming sucks. But the reality is, future generation of gamers, they love that stuff. Like my daughter's generation, They love going on Apple Arcade. They love playing quick games on the Android market or wherever they're at, like on the train, on the plane, whatever it may be. And we're getting to the point where mobile phones can start running some of these things in the cloud really well. And we see that with the X Cloud on Android phones. We see it with Luna. We see it, with even if you know how to do certain things with PlayStation, you can even there's I think it's called PS Play. It's an aftermarket version of the PlayStation app, but it works better than PlayStation app, and you can play your console remotely with that, even over the internet if you're not even on your home internet. Like, it has ways to connect, so it's just really cool. It's getting really good.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the more recent stuff that Apple's been promoting too, where you can play the newer stuff on your phones.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the point where it's really impressive, and I think that the future of gaming is questionable how it's going to be delivered, because you have all these older gamers that get upset and say, I want my physical media, but really companies decide how we digest their media, how we consume their media. And it seems like every company is looking for the cloud. And in some instance, there's benefits to that. I mean, it's benefits for the company as far as DRM goes. And then for the consumer side, it's beneficial where you don't have to upgrade your consoles constantly, and you won't have to upgrade your graphics cards constantly. So, I mean, I get why everybody's complaining, or at least older gamers are. But at the same time, do you want to keep buying a new console every 2 years? Do you want to keep buying graphics cards every year? Do you want to keep upgrading your RAM, your motherboard every time a new generation comes out? It's going to be, we're getting to the point where it's going to get really expensive, and games are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like, how are you going to store all this data on a console directly in a hard drive anyway? You're going to run out of space after like 2 games with the way the future's going. So, I mean, in some senses, the cloud is more beneficial for AAA games.
You see, I'm always someone that likes physical media. I'll collect it for the things I truly do love. Like Kingdom Hearts is one of those series where I will always collect physical for. Or
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I still have that appreciation for it. I don't want it to disappear, but I don't think it will ever actually disappear. I mean, just take a look at records. They're still around. People thought they would disappear. CDs for music are still around.
Yeah, I mean, but the big box stores are starting to really push to get rid of physical media.
Yeah, but you'll still have those niche stores that still sell them around. Like where like,
I mean, there'll be places like limited run games that will be around that sell it as a niche, and they'll make a lot of money off it as long as the console manufacturer continue to make drives for it, if you know what I mean. Like, so if PlayStation and Xbox say, next generation, we're not going to make any more drives, more like, CD drives or DVD-ROM drives, then what are people going to do? Like, it's out of your hands at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because I just see the aftermarket of like other stuff that's like people like that. People always like said were dead or like disappeared, but like is now on a comeback. I mean, what's it called? Tapes from like back in the day are coming back now. I see like new people like around my age are buying that stuff.
Yeah, I think because younger generations didn't experience all that stuff. So like cassette tapes, and now vinyl records are getting popular again with the older generation that loved it, and then also with the younger generation experiencing that sound for the first time and going out and trying to get retro looking jukeboxes or record players, like those big fancy furniture ones they used to sell in the 70s. So it's an interesting kind of mix for the market, but I think the only reason why I think we're going to see a difference with gaming is just because they're getting bigger and because the hardware is going to be more and more and more expensive.
To be fair though, I think like even if it was just like digital, I think games are still going to have problems because like, I mean, Call of Duty by itself on the computer is like 250 gigabytes. So that's pretty huge.
Yes. Yep.
And that's even without a disc. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like even with digital, there's still gonna be other stuff that's gonna be like that doesn't like change it. But like I think college is gonna be like another way to have like give people a different way to consume video games, just like streaming has for like films and TV shows.
See, I think that was the problem though. I think when Netflix came and started their subscription services, and then you had Adobe also do subscription services, companies look at this and like, oh wow, look at those companies make a ton of money off subscription services, you know, and then everybody wants to copy them. And gaming's no different. They're just gonna go where the money is, or they'll make everything so expensive that you just can't afford to keep upgrading. And that's the point that I'm looking at. It's not like I think that people hope for physical to go away. I think that it's just not going to be financially sustainable for your average gamer.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, everything is going up in price, but although gaming has always been one of those hobbies where it's like it's always been expensive, though. To be fair,
yes, and it's getting a little bit more expensive now.
Yeah, sadly, but I guess that actually does lead me to my to one of my final questions about gaming, because I always like to ask my guests this, and especially I think it's especially relevant now considering what happened recently with Microsoft with the layoffs. But I always like to ask my guests like what their thoughts on like the current state of gaming is, if it's in a good place or if it's in a bad place. What are your thoughts?
I think we're at a place where there might be a bubble that's going to burst. I don't think it's the fault of the gaming companies. I think it's more or less the whole industry, not just gaming, but the industries around gaming that gaming depends on, increasing in cost. And a lot of people may disagree with me, but I think there's a lot of greedflation happening. And I think because of that, prices trickle down and it's going to go up everywhere. So we're going to see more layoffs. We're going to see this across not just gaming, but other industries around gaming, like even manufacturing, shipping, all that stuff. And we're going to see AI start taking some jobs too, of developers and some script writers. It's just inevitable. Every time there's an advancement in technology, we lose jobs, but then certain jobs are created to handle the technology, but it's always less than what was previously. So you might lose 500 people because AI could do this, and you might have 3 people oversee the AI. So 3 new jobs, but 500 gone or whatever. And I think that's why we're going to see a bubble about to burst, is because prices going up, developers and people in the companies losing their jobs. It's going to leave some people salty for a while. And if prices keep going up like these, I know they were pushing $70 games, pushing like $109 games. There's sometimes like $300 collector's editions. It's just, I don't know, man. Like, I just don't think that's right or sustainable.
I think you should copyright that term you used, greedflation. That was actually a pretty smart way to put it.
And for Tim the Sorcerer, he says in the chat, Microsoft acquired the biggest publisher. There are bound to be overlap. Well, yeah, and Tim, I do agree with you that I think there was some redundancy that, were part of the layoffs, but I think majority of the layoffs were due to the economic downturn. I think it was due to shift in business focus as well. I think, maybe they had more employees geared towards physical sales or whatever it may be. And like, oh, we're changing our shift. We want to go a different direction. So could be some of that. There's just so much that goes into that overhiring during the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic gave a false market sense like, oh, gaming's about to become even bigger than before. We're getting so many gamers now. We're selling out of PS3s. We can't even keep enough systems in for people. Like, GameStop was saying that. And it's like, okay, well, you have a pandemic going on. Nobody can leave their house. Of course, game is going to grow. But when everybody has to go back to work and they can't play games as much anymore, and they get back to their work colleagues, start golfing again, or whatever it is that they do after work, go to the bar, hang out with Tim the Sorcerer, all that stuff, they're playing less games again. I mean, their kids may pick it up and take the place of it, but the adults, they're not playing as much as they used to, so it's not selling as much, and they overhired. So all that takes a factor into this whole idea that it could eventually burst a little bit. But we have our top companies that always stay on top, like Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation. They're not going anywhere. We have Steam that's not going anywhere. We might see some AA publishers get bought into AAA publishers, or we might see some AA studios closing. And, you know, that's kind of heartbreaking to me. But just, it's the economy.
Yeah, definitely. But I always just like to stay positive just because the indie scene, because like I feel like the indie scene is like where like a lot of developers should be looking at, or a lot of publishers should be looking at, like, you know, make these smaller games, keep costs low, because like budgets are also part of the problem with the bubble too. I mean, look at what happening with PlayStation with their single player games. They're pouring in hundreds of millions into these games, which they're afraid might not make a lot of cost back.
And you know, and that's another problem the game industry always had, right? But they don't talk about it. Is that my friend Chance Glasgow, he was one of the founders of Infinity Ward. I met him at a VR convention in Orlando, and we've been friends ever since. But one thing that he did speak about as time at Infinity Ward before Activision came in is that they had a whole different mindset. But Activision comes in, you know, they buy up Infinity Ward, and the whole thing starts to change because it's not what the developers want to do anymore, right? It's not what the producers and the development want to do. It's about what the marketing execs want to do. And a lot of the marketing execs are not gamers. They're business analysts, they're business focused. And there's a disconnect between marketing execs and developer who knows their game really well. And it hurts to see that these marketing execs will tell these developers, hey, cut this out of your game. Cut this level out of your game. Cut this idea out of your game. We need to get this out on time. Let's push. And it's like, well, why don't you just let the developer make a great game that's going to speak to other players? Because a developer, if they're a gamer, they're going to know it's good. But a marketing exec doesn't look at it that way. They look at it as, here's a piece of pie, and we want to take this pie from, you know, potential of earning like 10% on cost to earning like 90% out there that we can recoup back. We want to make as much profit as we can as fast as possible for our investment. And not every developer or development team is going to be on board with that. And there's such a huge, big disconnect. Just, it hurts the industry.
Yep, totally agree. You see, that was kind of why I kind of liked the idea of Embracer originally from what they started or what they were pitching, because the CEO was all about like giving the developers the freedom to create what they wanted to make. But, you know, because they're bubble first, they of course are coming down pretty hard.
Yeah.
I guess moving on from that, what do you say we get into your content history, huh?
Sure.
Yeah, so like I brought up before we started the show, I actually knew about you during the days when you were on Mooch's show. So
Crossfire, yep.
Yep. So
yep.
I've known about you for a pretty long time now. But
yeah, we're going back to like 2013.
Yep. So when did you first start your podcasting scene then?
So we were originally 4 guys with quarters. It was me and 3 friends at the time. And we were all talking about starting a podcast. I came up with the name 4 Guys with Quarters. We had a producer and we had somebody else who just liked to play games come on there. That was like around 2000. I want to say like 2013, probably, maybe, roughly. And we were primarily on Twitch, and we get like 5-6 people in there. Not always a lot of people, but 5, 6, 7 people. And we always had a good time. And then I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't I start reaching out to some of these other podcasters and see if we can get on their shows or, you know, whatnot. And that's how I ended up on Crossfire. That's how I ended up I don't. A lot of people don't know this, but the original TXR, where it was Maca, Rand Outdoor, Southbound. After I had gotten almost everybody on Four Guys with Quarters, I remember Rand called me up one day, and he's like, "Hey, we need somebody to come on TXR, and can you do it?" And I was like, "No, I have the flu. I can't. I'm really sick." So instead, our producer went on TXR, and he ended up becoming a permanent member for a little while. Got Mooch on Four Guys with Quarters, ended up on Crossfire, and I was one of the permanent members for a long time, and then I decided to kind of like leave. So it was like back and forth, and I was on, I guested on a lot of podcasts. After that, I guested on TXR when we had David Jaffe on. I guested on Console Corner. Man, it was like the good old days where it was more about fun, and it wasn't about, I don't like the whole idea of, and this is just me, right? Like it's not everybody else. Like I get why they do it, but for me, I never wanted to do podcasts and for money. I always wanted to do it for fun, like just to have fun, a good time, and I see like people have turned it into like a professional kind of business, and that's great for them, but that's not where I wanted to be. So I just kept 4GQ TV going in a different direction, and we never push for donations or only talk to people who super chat and blah blah, none of that stuff, right? Everybody's welcome, everybody can come chat. Doesn't matter if you give $0 or you give $100, you're treated the same as anybody else. We don't put any preference or favoritism on financial donations or memberships. And I think, we should always be grateful for the audience that spends time with us. And that's what it's all about to me, is like making connections, having friends, having a good time with your audience, having a good time with everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I honestly didn't realize that there were some podcasts out there that were just about the money, though. That's kind of shocking to hear, because I started out just as a listener to a lot of shows back in the day. So
yeah, I mean, some really take it like a business, like as if they're doing how do I say it? I mean, just like a job, right? So when they get paid for their job, they respond accordingly as if you're a customer. And I get it, right? I mean, that's what customer interaction is like. Tim the Sorcerer says console Warren. And I will tell you this, Callie probably listened to me on Crossfire back in the day. I was one person who didn't console war. I didn't believe in the console war.
Yeah, you're definitely a man that like just likes gaming overall. You don't really say anything negative.
Yeah, I never said anything negative. I think that every platform has their benefits, but as far as going to that, back to the starting podcasts and content creation, and that, I mean, kind of led me to where I am today. And I try to keep good people in the 4GQ TV circle, and sometimes it is hard because people have their own agenda sometimes, and it just doesn't always mesh well with your idea. And it's not that they're bad people, because I don't think anybody's bad. It's just that some people want more recognition, and I'd just rather stay humble.
No, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Some people's ideas just clashes with others. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that someone else was the producer for GQ TV.
Yes. At the time we started, Inferno was the one who produced it, and he is one of the first people that ever started using OBS. We started, like, him and I were chatting one day, and we were looking at different content out there, and there was a select group of creators using OBS, but they weren't podcasters. And we were like, okay, what if we take this platform and move it into the podcast space? And that's exactly what we did. We had back then it was like a terrible version of OBS. You had to have plugins just to put like certain GIFs on screen and all of that. But we were one of the forefronts in doing that. And Inferno had taught Jay, Graphic God at the time, some OBS stuff. And then, Graphic God today went on to start Retro Renegades. And now he has done so much stuff for other people using OBS and creating scenes and formats. So it's kind of like a unique history there.
Yes, shout out to Jay right there. He is he's been in my channel a few times in the chat lurking. Yeah, definitely a good guy there. What he does for the community.
Yep. Oh yeah, he's a really really solid guy.
So how did you become producer for 4GQ TV then?
To be honest, it's like any other podcast circle. Had some fallout issues, and Inferno was kind of busy with work, and we had some disagreements, and he went on his own way, and he was busy with work anyway. He wasn't really on towards the end a lot, and I just was like, okay, this can either die, or I can start picking it up and making something out of it. And I just decided that I didn't want to let it die because I liked 4GQ TV. I liked Four Guys with the Quarters. And I liked the content we produced. I liked the people that we met, like getting Steve Downs on Four Guys with Quarters back in like 2014, 2015. That was like a big feat for me. And ever since I had that one interaction with Steve Downs, it made me want to start getting more and more different people on the show. And that love for that has never gone away. Like, I love meeting so many different people and getting people on the show. And I just continue to produce it. And if the panel wants to come on and have a good time, they can. Some people don't make it. They have other things going on. That's okay. But I'm always going to continue to produce it. I'm always going to continue to try to get guests on. And lately, it's, we've gotten more recognition from the professional industry than necessarily like YouTube chatters and people on YouTube. But that says something to me. It says that we're able to produce something of quality that people in Hollywood and people in professional positions like. And I just keep going with that. I can go to a convention now and I could walk around and there are celebrities that recognize me and they start talking to me. And sometimes it takes me a minute to recognize them. Could be like hot comic book artists. It could be actors, different producers. And that's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, for me, it's about connections and making friends and having a good time. It's never about financial reward or financial incentive.
And that's what I think it should always be about, to be honest. That's kind of how I always rolled with YouTube itself. And when I make content, I do it for the fun of it. I do it for people who enjoy my content, or not really for the money.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I know there are people who probably do enjoy the monetary benefit at that current moment in time, but I just rather just enjoy it and then treat it like a job, or else I'm just gonna hate it in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the way to look at it, right? You're doing it the right way. You're doing it to have fun. You've created something unique that you've done. Like this whole set that you've designed, it's awesome. It's creative. I've never seen anything like this before done with dreams. Like, this speaks to me that you want to be a producer and just want to have a good time. And it's all about fun, right? Like, if you weren't having fun creating this, you wouldn't do it. Yeah. But because it's fun, you do it.
Exactly. So, I get finger brushing though. You generally just like enjoy doing like 4GQ TV, and I could tell like you're trying to do big things with it too. Like you don't just do gaming. You do like comic books. You do cover a lot of different people in different industries.
Yep. Yeah, that was one thing that I decided to change focus on. Right, like the gaming circle of podcasts have blown up tremendously, and the space has become so saturated. So although we still cover gaming and it's still like a big part of the podcast, we like to cover other things as well. We even tried doing a Marvel show for a little bit, but one of our co-hosts went back to school, so he's been busy. And we want to bring back some of that stuff again, like movie reviews, talk about comics on there. Even on the regular podcast now, we'll shift from gaming to talk about like, oh, this latest movie or whatever. It's just fun for me.
That's good. Yeah, and I definitely get the oversaturation part. Boy, that's kind of why I had to drop my first show I just started doing, because it just kind of it was just kind of too competitive to try to get people on to cover the same news. And when everyone's covering the same news every day, every week, it's just kind of boring, you know?
Yep.
How did you manage that, like, to stay on top, to stay on this like the constant news wave, like when you were doing gaming podcasts?
It was hard, to be honest with you, because I never like to regurgitate something that another podcast has already talked about like dozens of times. I didn't always want to talk about the same thing that 10 other podcasts were talking about that week. So there were weeks where I was like, there's not enough news to do a show, so we're just not doing a show. And maybe that was the wrong thing to do because we lost some members of the audience. But at the same time, I don't want to sit there and do something to the audience to project emotions about a news topic. You've already seen it like 5 other times during that week. And there's no need to get you enraged or upset or clickbait you on that stuff. You've already been clickbaited probably on 2 different podcasts. You've probably been enraged on 3 other ones. Just listen to some of the news. And maybe you had 2 good ones that told you like factual news. And why regurgitate that again? I didn't see a point in it.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I kind of reached that point too, which is why I kind of did this show, to be honest, where I'd rather interview people instead of do gaming news, you know? Because it's always fun to just branch out and do something different.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. It's always good to try different things. And it's never too late to try more than one thing. Like, don't ever feel like that your channel is in a specific area that you can't experiment. And one thing I learned, because we're part of the YouTube Creative Collective program, we're like a special partnership, especially for our shorts. And one thing that I've learned from YouTube employees and from other big content creators is that even if you feel like your channel is geared towards movies, or you feel like your channel is geared toward toys or towards something, you can still make another video on that exact channel. And if that video hits, then stick with that for a bit or keep it mixed. Like, you don't have to stick to what your niche might be. And there's a lot of creators that are afraid to break out of their niche because they're afraid they're going to lose some members of their audience. It may be true, they might lose some, or they might gain some more. But don't ever be afraid if you feel like your niche is stagnant and you want to try something different.
Yep. So I gotta ask, like, with all the guests you've had on for your shows, like, have you had, like, was there any moment like that made you like feel like, this, like what I'm doing is making it pretty big? I think I realized like our show is pretty big now. Like, have you had that moment or realization?
So that's a good question, because when I think of big, or I think we've made it, I probably look at it different than other people, right? I don't judge it based on financial incentive. I don't judge it based on numbers of the show. I judge it more on the credibility of the guests that we get on, right? So when I got my friend Jimmy Palmiotti to come on, that was a big moment for me. Like, he's a huge person in the comic book industry. He's been involved in script writing. He's helped write video games. And having Jimmy on, other people saw him on there in the profession. He's told other people. And it builds up this kind of thing that says, hey, 4GQ TV had so and so on, so I can trust going on that show because they're not going to ask me gotcha questions. They're not going to try to do anything strange. I can trust going on the show. And another thing too is that we honor the time frames that celebrities might give us. Like we had Tom Schulman on, who wrote Dead Poet Society, Medicine Man, Honey and I Shrunk the Kids, and he's doing an independent movie with King Coates and Lily Simmons called Double Down South. And we got him on, and they said 30 minutes is what you get because Tom is busy. And I respect that. So I kept it exactly to 30 minutes. And by doing stuff like that, that is how you get big, because you respect the guests that you have on. You honor their wishes. You're not trying to use them for clickbait. And you're just trying to have a genuine conversation. And by doing that, I have met so many different celebrities across industries that mind is blown, right? Like one of the singers that did a remix of Lean Back with Fat Joe, she wants to come on. And I'm like 2 months behind in booking, getting some of these people on. I still got to get other interviews up. We had Wally Wingert. I called him Gary at the convention. He's like, man, you forgot my name already? But he's a huge voice actor. He worked with Mark Hamill. He worked with Conroy. He worked with Tara Strong. He's worked with Jay Leno. He was the voice announcer on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno in season 7. He goes to Jay Leno's house and hangs out in his garage, and they talk about cars. Like the fact that these people want to spend a moment of their time to come on my show or allow me to interview them just says to me, hey, you're doing something right. These people like you, and you're building professional relationships, Yeah. And that is how I judge 4GQ TV when people say, did you make it big? When we become a household name amongst PR agents and celebrities.
I actually agree with that because you're seeing all these huge names come onto your show, so it's like it definitely has worked for you.
Yep. And the best thing about when you get to that point is that you look at a lot of gaming shows, right? And a lot of gaming show producers look at it as by numbers. They're like, oh, well, if you got so many numbers, then you're big, you can get anybody on. Let me tell you something. That's not how it works. If you do a show and you do controversial topics, or you talk about things to get the audience enraged, celebrities and PR people don't want to come on your show. You might get some developers that come on to help, sell a game or whatever, but your big celebrities, your executives, not coming on. But if you do a good show and you're honest with them and you talk to them like human beings, like how you're talking to me, and it doesn't matter if you have 5 people in the chat. It doesn't matter if there's 0 people in the chat. As long as you respect them and you treat them good and you talk to them like a friend, you bounce questions off them, they care about that more than anything else.
I'm going to be writing notes down for this episode. From one interview to another, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess my next question would be like, have you been having fun doing these interviews? Like, is there any, or has it hit a point where it kind of feels like it's kind of like draining, like a job? Because like sometimes people do hit like one of those walls in YouTube where it starts to feel more of a job instead of for fun.
It's never felt like a job because it's a hobby for me, and it always remain a hobby. It's never felt boring to me, because it's always exciting to be able to talk to another PR agent or another celebrity. And it gets really cool when, even if you're talking through PR agents, the celebrities email you directly and they bypass the PR agent. And it's like, wow, like they like me that much, or they trust us that much, or they think we put on that much quality, Hey, Flemish, what's going on? So that's amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the only reason I asked that is because well, recently, I don't know if you noticed, but some pretty big YouTubers have been quitting YouTube due to their lack of passion for for what they've been doing. So it's like, I feel like that question should be asked because like eventually I think people do hit like a wall where they just kind of run out of ideas for what to do. So they just kind of will eventually just take a break from YouTube.
See, I think that happens when you put yourself in a particular niche that you can't get out of, or that you are involved in some type of audience enragement moment, and you can no longer hold up those moments, or your audience leaves because they're getting tired of being enraged or being clickbaited. So I get that they're kind of like burnt out from that, but I look at content creation from the perspective of, if I don't cover this or if I don't talk about it, who's going to archive this in history? And when I was at Holiday Matsuri in Orlando, I met this really cool guy. His name is Anthony Chan. He is just a smart guy. I would say he's like an engineer. He built his own camera rig for like $200, and it looks like something you would see in Call of Duty, but it holds his camera, his digital cameras. Like, it's amazing, right? And he said to me, he says, when I'm filming at these conventions, and we were talking in the press room, he says, well, I'm filming at these conventions, this might be the last opportunity anybody ever has to speak to that person, or the time that you can film those people together in a group, because those people might not be friends anymore next year, or somebody may pass on, or somebody may move away, and they might not have this moment anymore. So somebody needs to be there to capture this moment for them and to remind them how much fun they had in the moment. And I'm like, wow, that's a really good way to put it. Like, this is what I love to do. You hit the nail on the head. This is what I love doing, this stuff. And it's about capturing that moment with people. It's magical because that moment can never be repeated. Like Tom Schulman talking about Double Down South. Like, he told us stuff in that moment that he might forget to tell somebody else. Like, he filmed it in 21 days with Kim Coates from Sons of Anarchy. Like, that's amazing. And no other outlet may ask him that question that I asked him. So we capture it in the moment. Like, you're capturing me this moment. Nobody's going to ask me the same exact questions that you've asked me. But now there's a digital archive of it.
Yep. And because I don't delete my old work, I always like to keep it up. My stuff ain't going anywhere. So yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's the joy of YouTube, to be honest. Too, is like you can have this stuff just archived in history, just like for anybody to view at any point in time.
That's important because 50 years from now, somebody might look back at this set that you've created, right? And technology may be different then. We're like, hey, this set's really cool. I'm inspired by this. Can I make a replica of this, but with modern Unreal Engine 25 and make it cinematic? You know what I mean? Like, this is really cool. Yeah. And that happens. That really happens. It does.
I guess my final two questions will be coming up, but for my second one, I'd like to ask, do you have any future plans for like where you'd like to take for GQTV, or do you think like you're kind of already you're already in the motion of doing those things?
For me, what I'd like to do is make it so that everybody on the channel feels like they're successful. So even like for me, I don't want any financial reward, right? But if people on the channel want to be able one day to get paid or something because they put in a lot of time, I want that to happen for them. So I'm always, even if I'm not looking for sponsors for myself, I try to say like, hey, have you checked out the show Majestic Mayhem? They're looking for sponsors. Or, hey, have you checked out Frogboy Gaming? He really does good NVIDIA and AMD comparisons. He's looking for sponsors. Like, I'll do that for my people on the show. And I'll also, like, if people want to go to conventions, I'll do that for them too. I got Fly Machine to a convention all the way over in Belgium. So I do that for my friends and for people on the show, even if I can't go, because it's not about me. It's about all of us together. That's what makes it work. The team makes it work. So I never put myself first. I put other people first. And Dreadpool can tell you that too. gotten Dreadpool into so many shows. I've gotten Lemon into PAX East, and Lemon's going again this year to PAX East. So that's what it's about for me. It's about helping everybody.
And I definitely get that sense from Flemish too. He always talks kindly of you. So
Flemish is a nice guy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I guess time for the final question. So I always like to ask my guests this because I always like to help people out, like get inspired. So if anyone watches this show in the future or who wants to start a YouTube channel or start a podcast, what advice would you have to give to them?
I got some pieces of advice from different people, and I'll mix it together. Number one, just do it. Like you may second guess yourself. You're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I only got like this USB microphone. Might not be good enough. So what? Start with it. You know what? It's about your ideas. It's about your content, and people that are like-minded will flock to it, and they'll like it regardless of how you sound at the time. They'll help, and eventually may get support, may get sponsorships to help you out and get better equipment. So just go with it and try it. It doesn't matter how many people support you at first. It doesn't matter if you got 0 viewers or 10,000 viewers. Just do it because you like to do it. Number 2, if your family's not supportive of you, just do it anyway. Like you got to do it for you, not because other people around you in your real life tell you what to do. You have to be happy with yourself at the end of the day. And if it makes you happy, do it. Number 3, it's okay to start out in one niche and then go into other niches and try different things. Never feel like that your channel is locked down to one niche, because it's your channel. You are the creator. You do what you want. It's your stuff. You don't have to listen to anybody. And don't listen to negative people. There will always be negative people around you. It's okay to hear them out, if they think an idea is not working. But if they go on and on about all this negative stuff, throw some of that away, because I'm sure that's not how everybody else is feeling. And number 4, I learned this from a YouTube creator who now makes $90,000 for every advertisement video that she does. When she started out, she had a few hundred people on her channel that were subscribed, but she still reached out to PR reps, like what would you call them, like marketing reps that do advertisements and stuff. And she said, hey, I make really great makeup videos. Here's my channel. I'd like to work with you. I have an idea for your video. And just by doing that, they didn't care how many viewers she had on her channel or TikToks or whatever it was. If they liked her content, they hired her. And on average, $5,000 a video. Her biggest one was $90,000 a video. And these videos are like 3 to 5 minutes long. And the companies don't expect you to put it up on your channel for views. The marketing team will take them and put them in commercials so they know it will get views. So if they like your content, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how big you are on YouTube or social media. So keep that in mind, because I think that's important. A lot of people get hung up on this and think, oh, well, I gotta be so big to be seen. Nope, not true. When we got Steve Downs on before GQ TV, we had less than 1,000 subscribers. The man still came on the show, emailed me. He's a real classic guy, really nice guy. We treated him with respect. Every voice actor saw that. And now we get emails to this day, 10 years later, from PR reps in Hollywood, record labels, game companies. They want to come on 4GQ TV. I couldn't handle it anymore, so Cerebral Paul had to take over some of the emails. And he can tell you there were times where I was sending him 25 to 40 emails a day of people that want to come on the show.
Wow. So that's an overwhelming amount.
It is. I get overwhelmed. Paul's overwhelmed. He can't keep up. So just follow your heart, man. You're out there, you're listening. Just follow your heart. Do what your heart tells you to do. And never give up. Oh, and one more thing. I got to bring this up because you asked me, how do you know to an extent of like when you get respected or, you know, you get known. We had a guy come on, an ex-mafia guy who's been on shows where he gets millions of views, came on to 4GQ TV to tell us his story.
Wait.
That was a moment I'll never forget.
Huh. There's a famous YouTuber who was an ex-mafia guy. I don't know if that's the same person.
Oh, Michael Franzese. No, no, it's not him. But we got Chicky Cacciatelli on, and Chicky Cacciatelli was on Camp Gagnon, and the episode with Camp Gagnon, he got like over several million views, and he came on our channel because we got along, we talked, and that's you just being nice to people, man. That's that's what it comes down to.
Interesting. Well, there you have it, guys. Well, I'll let you do your outro now, Clowns. Thank you so much for being on, and great words of advice you had to share. So
thanks, Charlie.
Let everyone know where they can find you at, my friend.
Everybody can find me at 4GQ TV. I just want everybody in the community to know that if you ever need help or advice, I'm just an ear away. I'm not hard to reach. I know some people have said to me, oh, well, we feel like we couldn't talk to you. That's not true. I will always try to help people out the best that I can. I always try to give wise advice. I'm very positive. Check out 4GQ TV and look forward to some interviews with some more celebrities. LFO, BB Mac, one of the guys from NSYNC, some more people from Double Down South we're trying to get on. Two people that did the Star Trek game, that new one that's like Telltale, they want to come on. 2 members of G4 TV want to come on, and some more comic book artists. So that's what I got lined up right now, but I'm sure there's probably more emails that I haven't seen yet.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to link all your socials and especially 4GQ TV's socials in the description below after this episode uploads. So yeah, and again, thank you everyone for who came by and supported the show today. Thank you, Flamish. Thank you, Devil Shooter. Thank you, Tim the Sorcerer. Thank you, Dreadpool. And yeah, tune in next time when we'll have my next episode. Gotta wait for a little bit for that because I am approaching midterms weeks, so I will be taking maybe 2 weeks off. So, but I'll let you guys know when the next episode will be, and I will also be having an episode this Sunday for my new show for the Triple Threats podcast, so stay tuned for that. Yeah. Again, hope you guys enjoy your day, and peace.
Later.